this meeting will be recorded, so if you aren't comfortable with that, uh, feel free to log off, and we'll definitely share this with our sponsor organizations' websites. But welcome. My name is Kyle Reeder, and I have the pleasure of serving as your moderator tonight on behalf of Rise Prince George's. We are a coalition committed to building safe, walkable, and inclusive communities through equitable transit, housing, and infrastructure investment. Again, thank you for joining us for this important conversation around the Prince George's County Transit Vision Plan and how it's setting a foundation for a more connected, reliable, and community-centered transit in our region. We have a couple of great panelists and presenters tonight, and I wanted to kind of identify them. And so presenting today will be Mr. Finn Vigeland, with project manager with Foursquare ITP. Also, we have Reem Rayliff, government relations with WMATA. And then also we'll have Chief of the Innovation and Transit Planning, Ifan Apansi from the Department of Public Works and Transportation. And we also have, blessed to have Deputy Director Oluseyi Olubenle, again, Deputy Director of the Department of Public Works and Transportation. And I think since the Deputy Director is on, I wanted to allow her some space at the beginning of this presentation to share a few remarks. So Deputy Director.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. Good evening, everyone. As Kyle mentioned, my name is Oluseyi Olubenle, Deputy Director of the Department of Public Works and Transportation. On behalf of Director Johnson, I just want to thank Rise Prince George's, the entire team, quite frankly, for hosting us tonight and helping to facilitate this very important meeting. And especially thank all of you for joining us this evening. I know we all have busy schedules, but we care about transit, and I know you do as well. Though we've had several public meetings and engagements over the last 2 years, this is our first public meeting since releasing our draft Transit Vision Plan 2025 to 2030 this week. So we are super excited. You're going to hear a little bit about the Transit Vision Plan, which is our 5-year strategic framework that really has the backing of extensive public input and outlines our future, right? The county's future for public transportation improvements. Since 2022, the bus has partnered with WMATA on the Better Bus Network redesign. So you'll hear a lot about that later, but it really was an effort to enhance bus service throughout the county, improve reliability, ease the use for riders and customers throughout the entire region. And so I want to thank WMATA for their partnership. The Better Bus Network redesign really is the first step of the TVP, and we're excited to launch this in Prince George's County on Monday, June 30. I know WMATA will be launching the 29th, and other counties like Montgomery County as well. But I mean, this is really amazing. Over the next several years, once we're able to fully launch this redesign in the county, you're going to see an increase of over 30% based on current levels, an expansion of improving the core transit infrastructure throughout the county. So in this meeting, we're excited to share these details of the Transit Vision Plan, how it aims to meet rider needs, and how the county's Transit Vision Plan fits into the Better Bus Network redesign, which I know some of you have questions about that. So tonight is your opportunity to ask questions, share feedback, send comments through the chat. I do want to end by thanking Associate Director Samaya Hackett and Transit Planning Manager Ifan Apanti for their leadership, and the entire DPW&T team for their efforts. So thank you again for joining us tonight. I'm going to hand it over to our consultant team and project manager, Finn Vigeland, to continue with the meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Oluseyi, and all of you for being here this evening. I want to thank the county. I want to thank Rise Prince George's, Coalition for Smarter Growth, Metro. I'm looking forward to presenting about the Transit Vision Plan with you. I'm going to go back one slide and just share the agenda, just so we all know the vision plan for this particular meeting this evening. We will start with an overview of just what the Transit Vision Plan, or the TVP, as we'll be calling it, just exactly what the TVP is. We will highlight a lot on the Better Bus Network redesign, both from the bus side as well as from the Metro bus side. You may hear us talk about this effort as BBNR. I'll do my best to try to say the full name, but after 3 years of work on it, sometimes the abbreviation just slips out. We'll talk about some of the other strategies that are discussed in the TVP. So other strategies about operations, which is usually what people are most interested in, just learning about more transit service. But there are other types of strategies discussed in the Transit Vision Plan as well. And then we will discuss next steps for the TVP and pause to take your questions. We'll take questions at the end of the Better Bus section as well. So with that, let me begin and give you a little overview of the Transit Vision Plan. So at a glance, the Transit Vision Plan, or again, the TVP, is a roadmap for creating a more vibrant and connected Prince George's County for all. To achieve that, this plan outlines strategies and actions to improve the county's transit service and infrastructure. And over the course of the next few slides, I'll explain how each of the 4 main sections of the TVP were developed. Those sections are the background, where we looked at our existing baseline and identified needs and opportunities. This next section is aspirational strategies, which ties in closely with implementation actions. This is where we got into the meat of what do we need to do to solve the shortcomings that we've identified. And the final section of the Transit Vision Plan is called Transit Transformation. This is where we operationalize everything that we have identified as something that the county needs to do to improve transportation and the experience of people getting around Prince George's County. So a little bit about what the TVP recommends. So the TVP identifies strategies to address the county's transportation needs. And these strategies became actions, which fall into one of 4 broad categories. The first category is funding. Here we explore opportunities for new sources of funding. We look at, for instance, alternative fares or alternative fare payment methods. In general, we consider the strategies under the umbrella of funding to basically be a prereq for everything else here. We have a lot of ambitious goals in the Transit Vision Plan, but we won't be able to achieve them all if we're not able to identify new and additional and alternative sources of funding. The next broad category that's discussed in the TVP is under operations, and this is by far the largest category of strategies in the TVP. This is about improving service across all modes of transit. That's bus and paratransit and microtransit, and other modes that are maybe not yet determined. So improving our corridors for high capacity transit, whether that's through heavy rail, light rail, bus rapid transit, modes still TBD. This also includes strategies around upgrading our vehicles that ferry people all around the county, and the amenities that allow you to comfortably wait for a transit vehicle to arrive. Another category of actions in the TVP are around workforce development. So this is largely around recruitment and retention of transit operators to make sure we're able to provide all the transit service that we want to. And the last category of actions is around land use. This is making sure that we have the right infrastructure to support the transit that we want to operate. And also that we're building appropriately. We are building housing around places where there is already a lot of transit. This is something that you may have heard of as TOD, or transit-oriented development. So again, these are the 4 broad categories of strategies and actions that are proposed in the TVP. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the process of how we developed this TVP, and we have to start with understanding our baseline. And one thing you'll see in this Transit Vision Plan is that we bluntly acknowledge and discuss the shortcomings that the county currently has in terms of reliability, frequency, and operating hours. Of course, the TBP explores, here's all of the bus routes we operate. Here's and I should say the bus routes that operate within the county, not just those that are operated by Prince George's County. But we also really stress what's not working. So last fall, 70% of the bus vehicles arrived on time. Our goal is 80% or better. That's something that we acknowledge we can do better. Right now, the average frequency, the average time between buses across all county operated buses is 36 minutes. That's something that we think is too long spacing between buses. We want to do better. And we know that most county bus routes stop running by 7 p.m., some end even earlier. And there is currently no county operated bus service on Sundays. Again, these are all places where we've acknowledged that the county is falling short and that we've identified as places that the county can do better in. So understanding our baseline and being able to talk honestly about what's not working was a huge part of this sort of initial chapter of the TBP, looking at our background. As I've said, the next sections of the TBP deal with strategies broadly and then actions more specifically that can help tackle those needs and opportunities that we identified. So we developed a set of strategies that would tackle these shortcomings and then created an action plan broken out into 3 phases. The first being short-term actions achievable within 1 to 3 years that are, these are improvements we think we can implement quite quickly or with funding that we already have access to. The next actions are medium-term actions on the 3 to 5 year time horizon, where we think we need a little bit more prep time or access to resources that are not immediately available to us. And the last, bucket of actions are the longer term or ongoing actions achievable over 5+ years, where we need to coordinate with other partners, regional partners with other counties, or where we just need to develop a more transformative plan to acquire that funding. And so you can see just a sampling of some of these actions grouped into their time horizons here. Some of the short-term actions, again, as I said, identifying that alternative funding has to be a short-term action. If we don't do that now, everything else just gets pushed back, it gets pushed down the line. We are going to implement the 2025 network of BBNR, of Better Bus, that is coming, as mentioned, at the end of June. Handful of other actions and others that are not even mentioned on this slide, improving the retention of bus operators. You may be aware that there is a national bus operator shortage. And so making sure that we are tackling that head on. If we don't have the people to operate these vehicles, then we can't operate the network that we know county residents and workers and visitors need and deserve. Some of our medium-term actions, again, these are ones where we think we need a little bit more preparation or more funding to fully achieve them. One of them is to create more zones for our PGC Link service. PGC Link is the county's microtransit service, which currently operates just in one large zone stretching from Accokeek to Fort Washington to Oxon Hill area. We believe that microtransit, and we'll talk more about this later on in the presentation, but we believe we need more microtransit zones. We want to improve pedestrian and bike infrastructure across the county to make sure that we have better access to reaching transit hubs or just any old transit bus stop. And then with more funding, we want to be able to implement the visionary network of Better Bus. We'll talk about this more later as well, but this is the larger, more expansive network that was planned as part of the Better Bus network redesign, but one that we need about 30% more funding in order to implement it. So there's a lot more bus service that is planned, but there's a lot more money that needs to be identified in order to operate it. Some of our longer term actions you can see in the bottom right are developing those high capacity transit corridors. Again, these are long corridors that move a lot of people in with frequent service. We want to make sure we are planning for those corridors. We're identifying the right infrastructure to facilitate the large and frequent movement of people on those corridors. We want to fast track those TOD projects. Again, that's the abbreviation for transit oriented development. Those are projects where developers come and build more at places where there is already a lot of transit service, or there's a lot of planned transit service that is being built there. The final chapter of the Transit Vision Plan, as I mentioned, is transit transformation. This is where we operationalize all of these actions. So we outline essentially how we achieve our vision. We want to secure funding. We're going to secure funding for the actions. We're going to move them into the planning, design, and construction phases, and then we'll monitor their progress by developing performance metrics. So this is a little bit of urban planner speak, but it's important for us to make sure we hold ourselves accountable. So if we plan now essentially for infrastructure and amenity improvements at bus stops, that means we will then design the site plans for those improvements, which then allows us to actually build those better bus stops and amenities. So we have a step-by-step process like this for each of the actions we've identified in this process. So to summarize the entire structure of the TVP, essentially what we're doing here is we started off by acknowledging our baseline in order to understand our shortcomings. We then developed strategies and actions to address our needs. And then we outlined the steps we need to take in order to achieve our vision. So that is the Transit Vision Plan, the draft of which you can now see on our website, which we can drop that link in the chat. The Transit Vision Plan was developed over the course of the last almost 3 years through extensive public engagement. We heard from riders and stakeholders, all sorts of people at almost 90 events. These were events that were held specifically for the Transit Vision Plan over the course of about 2 years. These were at many events held as part of the Better Bus Network redesign planning process. We may have spoken to you at events for the fall 2023 or spring 2024 service changes for the bus. And we might have spoken to you at some of our pop-up events related to the microtransit study. That's the PGC Link service. That outreach happened in summer and fall of last year. A few of the core themes that we heard, and we heard from so many people in so many different ways, whether it was at a bus stop chat, whether it was on a ride along on an existing transit route, whether it was through a survey, whether you commented on that big interactive map as part of the Better Bus Network redesign. There were a lot of different channels through which we heard from you. I would say the 3 overarching comments that really drove the TVP are summarized here. So the first sort of a representative comment we heard from a customer was, right now, these buses barely come every 30 minutes. How can you make sure they will do so in the future? And so that led us to define this public engagement theme of improving reliability for our transit services, in particular, the bus. Another representative comment we heard was, work is not the only thing people use transit for. There should be evening and weekend service. And so that led us to define the second overarching theme of improving operating hours, in particular, adding Sunday service and expanding evening service past 7 p.m. or past 6 p.m. in the case of even a handful of routes where their last trips leave at 6. A third representative comment we heard was, more service would fill in the metro rail gaps and cut down on the number of Ubers I have to use. So that led to us defining this third theme of expanding coverage. both by adding PGC link zones for microtransit and extending and adding bus routes to places that are under or fully unserved by transit right now. This leads me to our section on the Better Bus Network redesign. I'll chat a little bit about some of the changes related to the county's bus service, and then I'll pass it to our colleague Reem at Metro, who will talk about the sort of broader project and some of the changes coming specifically to Metro Bus. So one of the strategies of the TPP is to implement the 2025 network of BBNR, and we're very excited to check off that box in about 5 weeks or so at the very end of June. BBNR is, it has been a multi-year collaboration between the county and WMATA to develop new bus networks for the bus and for Metrobus. Implementing this network is both a short-term and a medium-term action, as noted earlier. The short-term action is, again, to implement the 2025 network, which will be implemented on Sunday, June 29th for Metro and Monday, June 30th for the bus. And you can go find your the bus route at this URL, tinyurl.com/pgcbetterbus. This is the URL where you can see route profiles of all of the county operated bus routes. You can look at a crosswalk that looks up what your new bus route will be based on whatever current bus route you ride. And it will also link to the Metro Better Bus website in case your new route is operated by Metro, or maybe you also already ride a Metro bus route and you want to get more information on those routes. But implementing the Better Bus network is also medium-term action, as I noted earlier. This is in order to implement the Visionary network, which is a more robust bus network that is the network that the region deserves, but which requires about 30% more funding to operate. That is a longer-term action for us. This effort to redesign routes on both operators will make routes more direct. It will improve frequency on many routes. It will improve coverage across the county, including on US 1, in Fairwood, in certain parts of Bowie, and in Fort Washington. It will also create an easier to understand network with a new route naming system and fewer routes that duplicate each other between operators. That's one of the ways that we were able to essentially wring out more resources, or excuse me, wring out more bus service using the same amount of resources that both operators currently use. And there is more to come beyond just the June 29th, June 30th implementation of this network. Within the next year, the county plans to up service with more service past 7 p.m. and is exploring introducing Sunday service on multiple county bus routes. So this is sort of, again, a direct response to one of the most prominent themes of our public engagement. I'm going to walk through a couple of changes that are coming to the bus routes specifically. This is perhaps the most in-depth we'll get in this presentation, but I know that this is something that perhaps all or most of you are very interested in. Just what is my new route? Where do these bus routes go? How do I learn what they are? So just to run down the list, we're going to start with the 4 routes that the bus will operate as of June 30th that really bear no resemblance at all to any routes that the bus currently operates, or maybe bear only a very passing resemblance to the bus routes. That first route is Route P23, which is a new route from New Carrollton Metro to Fairwood Parkway via Annapolis Road. There will be brand new bus stops serving the Safeway and Kaiser facilities in Fairwood. It resembles parts of current Metro routes F13 and B24. So if you happen to currently ride those routes, this may be the new bus route for you. The P37 is a new county bus route that operates between College Park Metro and New Hampshire Avenue through the University of Maryland campus and to the National Archives 2 campus. Essentially, this operates on all of the Prince George's County stops of current Metro Route C8. Route P71 is a new route connecting New Carrollton, the Bowie Park and Ride, and Bowie State. It takes pieces of the current Metro bus routes B21, B22, and B24. And finally, Route P95 is a new route connecting Southern Avenue Metro, the Oxon Hill Park and Ride, Friendly, and Fort Washington, which includes a brand new bus stop right on the campus of the Fort Washington Medical Center. This does look a little bit like the bus route 35, but also resembles Metro Route W14. So these are the 4 routes that we consider to be sort of the truly brand new routes to the bus. This next slide talks through routes that have major routing changes sort of relative to existing the bus routes. I'm going to go through these a little faster just in the interest of time, but there is, again, a ton of information on the county website that explains them in more depth. So one example is new route P22, which essentially extends Route 16 south of New Carrollton to Cheverly, although Berwyn Heights service will be operated on a different route. Route P44 essentially extends or modifies the bus route 27 with parts of Metro Route F12. So it connects New Carrollton to Landover, to Kent Village, to Largo. Route P54 is a slight modification of Route 23, but we take one big segment off of it and apply it to a different bus route. Routes P64 and P65 are essentially taking the bus route 24 and splitting it into 2 halves. So the western half of the route is P65, connecting Capitol Heights to Penmar Shopping Center, and the eastern half of that route is Route P64, connecting Suitland to Largo. And finally, Route P85 is similar to the bus Route 30, but shortened to run to Branch Avenue instead of to Suitland, which is how Route 30 previously operated. Different routes will serve the Marlow Heights Shopping Center, which Route 30 currently operates. So this is just a sampling of some of the changes that are coming to these routes. Again, you can find a lot more information on the county website, but I wanted to highlight some of these individual changes that are some of the more dramatic changes here. I think with this, oh yes, and here is the website right here. With this, I'm going to pass the mic to Reem Raef at Metro, who will talk more about the overarching project from the Metro perspective.
Thank you, Finn, and thank you everyone for having us. So yeah, again, my name is Reem. I'm on the government relations team at Metro, and I'm one of very many people who is not a planner, but has been tasked with doing a lot of the communication around this network and sharing information about the redesign and what it means for people across the region. So we are super excited to take this big step to improve bus service and do that hand in hand with Prince George's County Transit, like Deputy Director Oleg Bentley said at the beginning of this meeting. Like Finn said a little bit earlier, we are launching a new network, which is the culmination of over 2 years of planning and community engagement. Really taking a look at the network for the first time in over 50 years. The purpose was to better connect people with the places where they want to go at the times of day and times of week when they want to travel. And we know that that is substantially different from what it was 50 years ago. So it was high time that we took a look at the network again and made sure that we were actually serving customers and getting them to where they wanted to go, especially in the wake of the pandemic. We know that travel patterns have significantly changed in the past 5 years or so. And so the new network addresses some of that in important ways. Through our community engagement process and in redesigning this network, we learned where people want to go by following their ridership patterns and also asking them with online surveys and in-person workshops and riding the buses and standing at bus stops and asking our customers how does the bus network serve you currently and how could it be better? So on the left of the slide here, you have some of the attributes of the new network and the main kind of changes that it makes. It better connects the region by adding service to places that didn't have service before and removes service in places where there was low demand. It makes the bus a little bit more convenient and intuitive to use in ways that I'll describe in a little bit. It improves service on evenings and weekends, which we know was an outcome of the community engagement that Finn described. And the result is that we have better service for our region, or what we hope will be better service for our region, starting on June 29th. It's important to note that this network is a more efficient use of our revenues and resources, providing 7% more bus service without any additional operations funding or any additional buses or any additional bus operators. So it's completely resource neutral. It's not that visionary network that Finn described, the network that the region deserves. It is just flat and doesn't cost us anything more. And that means that we couldn't put a new bus route or a new bus stop along every single corridor where it was demanded, and we couldn't place a stop on every corner. But we think the new network is the best possible reflection of the feedback that we heard through those 2 years of planning, given the resources that we had. I'll take the next slide, Finn. So what does that 7% more bus service mean? We realized that 7% improvement with no additional resources in a couple of different ways. One is that we see a significant reduction in vehicle miles traveled just from buses traveling to and from the origin and terminus of the bus route. So we've oriented the bus routes so they're a little bit more efficient, and buses aren't spending so much time and vehicle miles getting to and from the actual routes when they're finally carrying customers. We've also realized a decrease in the peak bus vehicle requirement, even as we've applied many more frequent service networks, resulting in a smaller and more efficient fleet. We've also straightened out many of our routes that were kind of circuitous or really kind of zigzaggy. We've straightened those routes out to increase the efficiency of each of those routes and to give our customers a bit more of a direct path from point A to point B. And the result is that the average resident gains much more access to key destinations like hospitals and grocery stores and shopping and so on, which could attract about 13,000 more daily weekday trips, which is great. It means that customers are able to use the bus to get to where they needed to go and able to make trips that they weren't previously able to make, by bus at least. So we're briefing you today that the timing is good because we really need help getting the word out about the new network and that our routes are changing on Metrobus on June 29th and of course on the bus on June 30th. And the three major messages to our customers are, first, bus routes are changing. Yes, even yours. Every single bus route is changing, whether it's operated in DC or Virginia or Maryland. And with this big change, it can feel very, very overwhelming, but we have the resources that are available to help you understand the new network and what it means for your family and your community. And I'll talk through all of those resources today. And the third is that you can learn the network one trip at a time. You don't need to learn the entire network all at once. I don't know of anyone who knows the entire network as it exists right now, but you can use these resources to learn the network trip by trip. So on June 29th, figure out the trips that you need to make on June 29th and go from there. This slide shows you an image of the bus flags that have started to go up all over the region, indicating to customers that the new network is coming. And this is one of the ways that we're trying to make the bus network much more intuitive. We're trying to we are renaming the bus routes so that the names carry more meaning for our customers. So this is a big part of how we're making this more intuitive. So when you look at the name of a route, you might have a sense of what part of the region that bus is serving. So the first letter, to do some interpretation of the names, this will indicate what part of the region that bus route primarily serves. So routes that primarily serve Prince George's County will begin with the letter P. Routes that primarily serve Fairfax and Falls Church will begin with the letter F. Routes primarily serving Arlington and Alexandria will begin with the letter A, and routes primarily serving Montgomery County will begin with the letter M. Because we have so many routes in DC, routes that primarily serve the downtown area will begin with the letter D. And routes that cross town, going kind of east to west or west to east, will begin with the letter C. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an indication of when you're looking at a route, the D40, you know that this route serves downtown DC. The second character refers to kind of the neighborhood or the corridor that the route operates in or serves. And so any route that has a D4 third character will serve a similar area. And then the third character signifies a limited stop route if it has an X there, an X meaning indicating it's a limited stop route, so that bus doesn't stop at every single bus stop along the corridor. So that bus will travel a little bit faster, but it might not stop at the bus stop you want to go to. I'll take the next slide, Finn. So we're in the midst of this really significant information campaign to let people know that changes are coming, so they aren't taken by surprise when they go to make their trips on that first week of the new network. And there are a few ways that you can plug into that information campaign as customers or as leaders in your communities. And at the simplest and easiest lift, you can get smart on the new network using our online resources. So that when your neighbors or your community come wondering what's going on, you have the answers and can point them to further resources. So this slide shows you just a few of the digital tools that we have available online right now to help you understand the new network. And I would recommend you begin with the trip planner, which is all the way on the left here. The trip planner allows you to enter your start and end destination, where you're trying to begin and where you're trying to go, and see exactly how the new network will get you there. So even if your route doesn't change much, the trip planner will show you the name of your new route and where your new bus stop might be. This is a super useful tool, and it's actually, the trip planner has existed for a really long time. Customers can use it today to make their trips. But if you want to see how your trip will look after the new network is implemented, you just need to change the date to a date after June 29th. So if you want to know what your trip will look like, what your work trip will look like, for example, just put in a date after June 29th. You can also use the route crosswalk tool, which gives you the new name of your Metrobus route. So I typically take the H4 if I'm trying to go across town, and you plug in the name of your bus route and it spits out the new bus route under the new network, as well as a route profile that shows you where that new bus route will take you. And then finally, we just published our neighborhood profiles, which have a neighborhood level map showing the different routes that serve as a kind of specific narrow area, and comparing them to the existing routes as well, and providing specific detail about the changes that specific community can expect to see. So we have neighborhood profiles for lots of areas and communities in Prince George's County. It's not just DC, so definitely encourage you to take a look at those. I'll take the next slide, please, Finn. So those were some of the online resources, and we also have physical resources available to let people know that changes are coming. We have updated maps at all of our stations and many of our stops. We'll have A-frame signs at metro stations and at bus bays. These are starting to go up next week, just so that kind of people who are getting on the bus can see that changes are coming and use the QR code to get to more information. And we'll also have take ones, which are these kind of half-page sheets all the way to the right, that again include the QR code and lots more kind of FAQs and information about the new network, directing customers to where they can find more resources. You can order these materials to your office to distribute to your constituents or to your customers or your neighbors and communities. If you have an event or a meeting coming up and you think that your guests would benefit from any of these materials, please do reach out to me or my colleague Charlie Scott, who covers government relations in Maryland, and we can see about getting these materials delivered to you for those meetings or occasions. Take the next slide, please, Finn. We're also meeting people where they are to tell them about the new network. In the coming 5 weeks or so before launch day, we are going to be at events and markets. We were at Bike to Work days, festivals and grocery stores and laundromats, anywhere we might reach our customers who aren't following us on social media or seeing any of these online resources. And you'll find us at these locations setting up tables, distributing Better Bus Network swag, and informational materials, of course, many of which you saw on the last slide, just talking to people about the new bus network and where they can learn more. If people want to talk about their specific route, we'll have folks who can help them do that. But we really want to make sure that we are getting out into the world and making people aware that changes are coming. And this engagement, I should say, is going to extend into the fall, targeting students and people going back to school who might not be making these trips on June 29th and will make their kind of first bus trips at the end of the summer. I'll take the next slide, please. This is the most important bit of engagement that we're doing to let people know about the new network. Our team is going to be in the system, riding the bus and standing at bus stops with our customers to let them know about the upcoming changes, basically every day between June 9th and July 13th. So this slide represents an incomplete list of our planned ride-alongs and bus stop chats is what they're calling them, between June 9th and June 29th. We'll be out in the system beyond launch day, but those dates are still kind of TBD. So you can find us in person at many of these locations, again, sharing information about the new network and helping people make their trips in real time. Our team is primarily focused on areas where the network is changing the most, visiting the same bus stops over and over again to make sure that those who really rely on the bus to make their daily and weekly trips aren't caught off guard. And we really consider this to be kind of the core of our outreach efforts. And if you move to the next slide, Finn, we'll also be at the ends of the orange line. And I know Tacoma, Langley, and Deanwood aren't necessarily in Prince George's County, but know that lots of folks commute through those areas, so included those as well. I want to spend a little bit of time discussing another resource, the Communications Toolkit, which is online now. The Communications Toolkit basically includes template language that you can use to make original content about the Better Bus Network yourself and use your own voice to share information about the new network with your audience. There's language that you can include in your weekly newsletters, language that you can use on your social media posts on X or Blue Sky or Instagram or wherever. There's also talking points that you can bring to your own briefings or community meetings. We basically want to make it as easy as possible to get the word out and know that we won't succeed if we just do it on our own. We need other people to take up the mantle and use their own platforms. So this is at wamada.com/betterbuscomms. And I think what's really important about this toolkit is that a lot of our customers are understandably really alarmed about the removal of bus stops in particular. Many are interpreting the removal of bus stops to mean that the bus is no longer serving their neighborhood or their corridor. And that isn't the case. The new network might actually be connecting these same customers to new places that they wouldn't have been able to access before. So we need your help spreading awareness of new connections and dispelling these misconceptions. So the Communications Toolkit can really help you get started with the language that you need to dispel misconceptions and talk about how your own trips are changing, and use your trusted voice to share information with your community. I'll take the next slide, please. Really, the best way that you can help us get the word out is to become a Better Bus partner. And the Better Bus Partner program is basically a 4-month-long program, officially beginning in early June, that makes your office or organization or your business a temporary part of the Better Bus team. And you basically become an ambassador of the Better Bus Network redesign for your community. You can order physical resources to your front desk or your business. You can be our eyes on the ground to make sure that the signage near your space or your office is intact and up to date. And you'll receive the latest and greatest information about the Better Bus Network from a Metro contact. And we're really relying on the Better Bus Partner program to help us reach folks that we might otherwise not have access to, and to build more trusted voices in the new network in every part of the region. So if you're not quite sure that this is right for your organization, we're having a information session on Thursday, May 29th. And I'll drop a link in the chat where you can register for that info session. And that's basically just a low pressure way to learn about the program. And if you think it might be a good fit, you can go ahead and register afterwards. But there's no commitment for joining the info session. And I think you'll probably hear a lot of the same information I shared today. Today, the National Capital Parks and Planning in Prince George's County just became a Better Bus partner, which was a huge deal. It means that we'll have Better Bus Partner or Better Bus Network materials at 113 parks and locations around Prince George's County, which is awesome. So would urge you to join National Capital Parks and Planning in the program and help us get the word out. So I think we have a few minutes for Q&A. Is that right, Finn?
We're going to wait to the end, right, Ben?
I think we're happy to answer maybe 2 or 3 questions about Better Bus right now, and then other questions about the TVP will we have a few more slides about non-Better Bus items after this. So yeah, if there are any Better Bus specific questions, we can field a handful of those now.
And so I can start us off. I saw a question and a couple of questions in the chat. And Reem, I know you just said this, but can you reiterate for the lines that are changing, where are the places and spaces where people can better understand where their routes are being changed, or the new names of their routes?
Yeah, so if you go to wamato.com/betterbus, which is what I just dropped in the chat, there's a lot of different tools that you can use. I might direct folks to the neighborhood profiles. And if you find your neighborhood and neighborhood profiles, you can see a kind of direct comparison of this is the name of what my route used to be, and here is the name of the route in the new network that kind of approximates the existing route, and here's how it's changing. So I've been using that as a resource for understanding the area around me, and definitely recommend that as a starting place. But also you can use the trip planner just like you would use Google Maps if you haven't used it before. And that helps you figure out what your future trips will look like. Just make sure you remember to change the date to a day after June 29th so that it shows you the future trips as opposed to the existing ones.
Thank you for clarifying that. So like there are a couple of different places where we as users can be able to better understand, hey, what new routes are serving our community. I think you had mentioned in your presentation that some of the routes are there to kind of improve access to other, commercial and other amenities across the community. But can you reiterate again some of the benefits of the Better Bus upgrades to the network?
Yeah, you'll see that there's much more weekend and late night service in the new network. That's something that we heard a lot from customers during the community engagement segment of our planning process. You'll also see a lot of direct connections to kind of high traffic areas. There's a new direct connection between L'Enfant Plaza and the National Harbor, for example, that didn't exist before. The National Harbor was not the way that it was 50 years ago. And so lots more people are going there, and we want to encourage people to take the bus. There's also, I think, a new route that I know our planners are really excited about, connecting Deanwood directly to the Washington Hospital Center. And that used to be a really painful journey that required, I think, a couple of buses or a bus and a train. And now it's a one-seat ride to the Washington Hospital Center. So there's lots of connections like that that are much more direct, and that we heard are very much desired by our customers through the community engagement process.
Yeah, and I saw somebody in the chat mention better service on Route 1 and new Metrobus route, the P1X will be a new limited stop bus running up from the Rhode Island Avenue Metro all the way up to, I believe it goes to Greenbelt. I forget if it terminates at College Park or Greenbelt, but it basically is sort of a straight shot up Route 1, making limited stops coming every 20 minutes. So that's another way that people will be able to sort of move throughout the county faster.
And then I guess last one, kind of looking at some of the themes in the comments, right? So I know there is some anxiety around, you know, routes that people may have been used to that may not no longer be going the same ways or not being serviced anymore. Can you talk just a little bit more, just that collaboration process between WMATA and the county, and how the bus routes in the county will kind of complement the WMATA routes? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I know that our planners have been working hand in hand with the planners at Prince George's County Transit to build a network that works for the entire region, not just for folks in DC and not just for folks in Prince George's County, but a region that is truly interconnected. I think the reality is that people are going to be frustrated by the changes during the first week and month. We know that this is true because our every single other transit agency that has tried to do a bus network redesign on this scale has had pains in the first couple of weeks. What we're really focused on doing in collaboration, of course, with Prince George's County Transit is letting people know that they are not alone in their confusion, and that they have support, and that there are places that they can turn to for that support in figuring out their new trips. So I think the communication part of this is also a really important element of our collaboration.
Thanks for that. I think that kind of ends my questions on this. And like I said, I'm looking in the comments, don't see anything else in specifically. But Finn, did you want to continue on with your presentation?
Sure, yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Reem. I don't think make sure my mouse is working. There we go. I'm gonna move on and talk about some other strategies. So we have other strategies in the TVP that relate to operations, and then other strategies in those other categories. So the last note on Better Bus in this presentation is just to talk a little bit more about the visionary network of Better Bus. The TVP does represent the commitment of the county to implementing the visionary network, but we will need more funding to do so. Some highlights of the visionary network are that it expands transit service by continuing to increase frequency, expanding evening and weekend service, and adding 9 new routes in addition to extensions of other existing routes in the 2025 network. A few new routes to call out in the visionary network are a route connecting Laurel to Bowie, a route through Rosaryville, routes to Accokeek, and actually even an extension to Waldorf in Charles County. So we are looking for ways to fund the visionary network so we can implement it. A few other operation strategies that are committed to in the Transit Vision Plan, including the creation of more PGC link zones. So the county has sprawling low density growth, and not all areas can be served efficiently by fixed route bus service. And so that's where we recommend expanding PGC Link, which once again is the county's existing microtransit service, which currently operates from Accokeek to Fort Washington to Oxon Hill and Clinton. And this plan calls to expand that service from 1 zone to 5 zones, with potentially more in the future.
And Finn, I'm sorry, just for folks
Yeah.
that might not be fully aware, can you clarify what a microtransit service is?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So microtransit is an on-demand app-based public transit service where that operates within a designated zone, and you can get picked up and dropped off anywhere within that zone. So right now that service in the county operates between 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. We one of the calls in the transit vision plan is to expand not only the number of zones, but also the operating hours of the zone, to expand to more days of the week beyond just the weekday. But you will get picked up in a transit vehicle. You may potentially have another customer join you in that vehicle if their trip is on your way. If you have ever taken a service like Uber Pool, it functions in a similar way, but it is, of course, a public transportation service.
Thank you for that.
Of
So
course.
our county's version of, lack of better, a ride share service that can, it looks like I see a lot of focus on South County and Bowie and then Laurel, and then I think some parts of Hyattsville as well, right?
Correct. So the initial zones that this plan has identified are new zones in Laurel, Hyattsville, and Bowie, and then sort of a reconfiguration of the existing zone that would connect to Branch Avenue Metro, which is not currently within the existing PGC link zone. And the county has identified the need for more microtransit. But these were the initial zones identified. All right. Another operation strategy in the TVP is to put the full weight of the county behind developing more high capacity transit corridors. So we all know that congestion is increasing and major bus routes need transit priority infrastructure in order to run reliably. So one of the recommendations of the TVP is to develop these so-called high capacity transit corridors. In our definition, a high capacity transit corridor is a corridor designed to offer faster transit service separated from traffic wherever possible, such as by bus lanes or guideways in the case of something like light rail. This could be something as straightforward and familiar to you all as Metro Rail. It could be something like Metroway in Virginia or Flash BRT in Montgomery County, or something like the Purple Line. But we need to make sure we identify the right corridors that are moving the most people and apply the infrastructure to those corridors to ensure that we can move high volumes of people at a high frequency so that those buses don't get caught in the congestion that is present if you do not prioritize transit.
Hey, Finn.
As I've mentioned, yes, go for it.
I think that's Mayor Lilly, Troy Lilly. Is the Richmond Highway near National Landing an example of a high capacity transit corridor?
Yes, it is. So that I think you're referencing the REX, the Richmond Highway Express service that Metro offers. Yes, that and Metroway are the two high capacity transit corridors that are that have services operated by Metro. So yes, that's another great example. Thank you. All right, there we go. Other types of strategies that are committed to in the transit vision plan include some of the following. So as I noted, the funding strategies are really a prerequisite for our transit transformation process. So some of these actions could include supplemental federal and state funds and grants, more advertising on transit vehicles and stations, and developing transit funding districts and similar public-private partnerships. We will also look into alternative fare payment methods, including the option of going fare-free, which may actually increase our ridership and thus the share of state funding for which we are eligible. So all of these options are on the table. We also want to recruit a manager to oversee long-term capital programming, planning, and design projects to make sure we actually have someone who is ensuring that we are holding forth to the commitments made in the transit vision plan. There are a lot of other strategies in the TVP that I did not get to today, but you can read all about them in the full transit vision plan online. These include strategies related to just improving amenities at bus stops, expanding pedestrian and bike access, supporting transit-oriented development, our transition to zero-emission buses, and improving bus operator recruitment and retention. So you can go to tinyurl.com/PGCTVP to read the transit vision plan online. That brings me to basically the end of this presentation. I'm going to walk through our next steps, and then we're happy to answer any other questions about the transit vision plan. So the first next step is actually one that has just been accomplished, which is to publish the draft TVP. So we have just checked that off our list, and that you can now go to that website that I just shared and read the full draft transit vision plan. We are holding some in-person events over the course of the next several weeks to promote the TVP and to talk more with customers around the region. On Saturday, May 31st, we'll be at the Oxon Hill Branch Library. On Monday, June 2nd, we'll be at the Hyattsville Branch Library. And on Tuesday, June 10th, we'll be at the Evans Elementary School in Clinton, which is an event we are sharing with the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit Project team. We are continuing to accept and collect feedback on the transit vision plan, on what stands out to you, on what you think may still be a shortcoming of it. And so we will collect that feedback and make note of it in some of our technical reports. We also are having stakeholders review the transit vision plan and provide us comments. So the final version of the TVP, as well as all of those tech reports, will be published by the end of next month, by the end of June. And as we've mentioned several times on this call, Sunday, June 29th and Monday, June 30th is the launch day of all of the new bus routes across Prince George's County, and in the case of Metro, across the region. So with that, I'm happy to field any questions about anything related to the transit vision plan, to Better Bus, to microtransit, anything that we've mentioned on this call. If you would like to share any feedback right now, you can go to tinyurl.com/PGCTVP, and there is a comment box on that website. You can email it directly to the email address you see on the screen, which I see has also been mentioned in the chat. But we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If you have nothing else, feel free to hop off this call. So on behalf of the county and RISE and Metro, we're very grateful to you for coming this evening, and would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, please feel free to put your questions in the chat or just raise your hand. And then I guess as we wait, and just kind of, again, just thank you, Finn and Reem and Deputy Director Olushe, just for you guys' work and the whole team. I know it's been a lot of years in the making trying to organize these things, and it's not easy things. It's not easy work, but it's relevant work. And I know the ultimate goal is to help us move better and faster and more efficiently and safely. So thank you guys for that. I'm just trying to see. I think there is a request to share a tiny link in the chat. But I do have just a broad level question of I know you kind of mentioned this at the top, but can you kind of remind us how does the transit vision plan reflect the goals of the county around equity, economic mobility, and livability? Can you just kind of remind us of the why with all this?
Absolutely. Yeah, in the very beginning stages, and also if anyone from the county wants to address this, please feel free to, but in the very beginning stages of the transit vision plan development, the engagement work identified a number of both core values and key pillars that the county wanted to abide by to advance access to transportation, to ensure equity in outcomes and in access to ensure safe and reliable and innovative transportation. I don't have the full list of the key pillars right in front of me right now without switching the PowerPoint, but so that was the very beginning of this process, to speak with our customers, to speak with our operators, to speak with folks who work for DPW&T, to make sure that we had a set of key pillars and core values that were guiding all of these investments. So those are, I believe, right in the first or second page of the TVP website, and you can go review those there.
Thanks, Ben. I think we have a question from C Banks. I think, let me see, can I get you to ask to unmute? C, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, I'm right here now. Can you hear me?
Okay, yep, can hear you. Go.
Great. With well, first thing is about Rapid Rail. Are we bringing in the Rapid Rail buses on like Route 301, Route 5, 210, Route 4, those major intersections that can connect back to the highway? And seeing that, that Charles County, Waldorf, up and down, that whole traffic mess that they got down there, is that a priority on the bus lines to get them some type of relief?
Could you
So-
elaborate on what you mean by a rapid rail bus? I'm just not sure I'm familiar with that term.
So in Montgomery County, they have these big, they call rapid rail buses, where they couldn't put a high-speed rail line in. They put a dedicated lane with those buses that have like a accordion in them
Mhm.
that extends it, and they call that rapid bus.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. I think you might be referring to possibly the Flash service that Montgomery County operates.
Yes,
Got it.
exactly.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Flash is a specific type of transit that we often sort of broadly call bus rapid transit, or BRT. Staples of this kind of transit are, as you mentioned, dedicated lanes. As you also mentioned, the sort of articulated buses, those longer buses that have that accordion in the middle that are able to carry more passengers per trip. They often have more built out stations rather than just sort of a bus shelter. Sometimes you're able to pay before you get on the bus. And yeah, bus rapid transit is absolutely something that the county is interested in investing in. It falls under that umbrella of high capacity transit corridors. So yeah, making sure we're supporting a project that you referenced Waldorf. So making sure we're supporting a project like the Southern Maryland Rapid Transit project. Yeah, so this is something that the Transit Vision Plan states as a priority for the county. And so the next step is to identify exactly where this kind of service would go.
Okay, thanks. And also, I was looking at one of Metro's budgets, and they said that either 40 or 49% of their Metro Access customers come from PG County. Is that something that we think that PG County should like start to invest in? Their own Metro Access buses or vans?
I think I'm going to defer to the county on this question, although I will just acknowledge that there is a comparable service to Metro Access that the county runs called Callabus. But the exact, I'm not intimately familiar with the difference in eligibility between the two, but there is a similar service that is run by the county. Metro Access, is where Metro Access goes is contingent on where Metro provides bus and rail service. But there is a paratransit service called Callabus that the county runs right now.
Yeah, we could just get some marketing behind that, and then that revenue could help us, in the county.
That's a great point. It's not the first time I've heard someone say that they weren't aware of the existence of Callabus. So
Right.
that thank you. That's a great comment.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I guess kind of building on that question, speaking on funding, what role do residents and civic leaders play in advocating for the funding that this vision requires? I think you mentioned that to realize the full visionary network, right, we'll have to increase funding for transportation up to like 30% or something, right? So, what role do us residents and civic leaders and advocacy groups play in kind of advocating for that full, fully funded system? And I don't know if you can answer that, Finn or Sean.
Yeah, is Olashay or Ifan available to answer that question? That's a great question.
Yeah, Ifan, are you here? Can you repeat the question, Kyle? I just want to
Oh,
make sure I
sorry,
heard you clearly and correctly.
just what role as us as users and residents and folks that utilize the transit system in the county what role do we play? I know, like I said, these things require funding, and the visionary
Absolutely.
network, based off of the plan, we're anticipating to really fully meet the goals and things, we'll have to fund this additional 30%. And
Right.
what role do we play as riders, residents, and civic leaders and kind of advocating for the funding that this?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Thank you for asking that. What immediately comes to mind is that we really need residents and riders to stay involved and connected. In the county in particular, we've been quite successful in applying for federal grants and getting awarded those grants, over $65 million. But that's still not enough, right? And I think understanding how funding works, so our consolidated transportation program at the MDOT level, is their annual budget that counties participate in. Prince George's County provides a letter to the Maryland Department of Transportation to advocate on behalf of the county and also be very clear about our priorities. But as you can imagine, MDOT also has a funding gap, but I think staying connected with the priorities in the county and making it clear to the state, and also speaking at the level with our federal officials as well, making sure that residents can connect with them and advocate with us to our federal delegation. But I think the most important thing that riders can do also is just continue to provide that feedback. We don't have enough money, but as we hear more from you and we hear feedback, we can reallocate resources as needed and prioritize where we can. We may not be able to fix everything all at once, but your feedback actually drives where we would need to prioritize those funding dollars that is fiscally constrained. So, keep sharing, keep connecting, and providing your voice to what matters with transit.
Thank you, Deputy Director.
Yeah.
We probably have time for one
I
more.
I also want to add that WMATA is part of the solution, right? So whenever WMATA, need the funding to expand their operations and support, more accessible transit in the county, that actually helps, because WMATA, in addition to local transit, is part of the solution. And we all know that we usually have some budget challenges with WMATA as well.
No, thank you for that. Like I said, I think it's a good start that we have a plan, right? And just like I said, how being able to, fully fund it and make sure that plan gets the support it needs from the residents to be able to be fully implemented. So thank you for clarifying that, you guys. I think Bill Orleans, would you like to add a question as we start to wrap up? Bill?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you now, sir. How you doing?
Thank you. A question was asked of Mr. Aponte at an earlier meeting, if when there were community meetings beyond this one here, with Rise of Prince George's, if announcements couldn't be circulated around the county, the libraries, community centers, recreation centers, as well as to all the municipalities, so they could send out the word, as well as paper flyers on the bus. The bus, of course, has the digital screen, which is very difficult to read, at least on most buses that I've been on. So paper flyers would be useful, again, in libraries, community centers, rec centers. That's one question. I wanted to ask Mr. Vigeland or anybody else online if there's been any consideration in what's being called Better Bus in Prince George's County to the county taking over the operations of the bus rather than contracting it out. Contracting it out costs the county, I think, more money than it saves in not operating it itself. So has any consideration been given to that?
All right. So thank you, Bill. We have flyers going up right now about our events. So we have flyers. We're distributing them at libraries. Unfortunately, that process has been a little slow, but we're distributing flyers at libraries, community centers, and we're also putting a lot of information about events on the buses, on the digital screens. So there's quite a lot going on that. Again, it's a little bit slow, but you'll see that as we ramp up this effort. I really can't talk a little much about the current operations of the bus. We're studying opportunities for us to improve how we manage and operate the bus services as it is today. There may be opportunities down the road for us to rethink our operation strategies and governance structure. But right now, I think we are under contract with the vendor to operate the bus service, and the contract is currently an active contract.
Which, if they're providing bad service, the county could get out of if it wanted to. And they are providing bad service. Buses are down as frequently as they're up and operating.
Yes, we understand that we have some challenges. It's something that we're looking into and we're working on to see how we can fix that. We're currently studying, again, going back to the point you raised, which is a good one. We're studying how we can improve our governance structure, whether a contracting model makes sense or an in-house operations. So we're studying that a bit. That's really what we're doing right now. There's no solid recommendation on exactly how we want to go forward, but we're studying that.
Thank you.
All right, Ralph, did you want to come off mute and ask your question?
Yes. I noticed y'all having events at different locations, like in Oxon Hill and Hyattsville. Is there any plans to have any informational events towards like Bowie, Upper Marlboro, or Largo areas? Because I know a lot of people in that area would like to have information, have an open house for it, because we can't always get out to like Oxon Hill or Hyattsville.
Sure. Thank
And
you
bring-
for your.
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah, thanks for the question, Ralph. In terms of transit vision plan specific events, you're looking at the list of them on this slide. So those are the Oxon Hill, Hyattsville, and Clinton events. There will be more events, as Reem showed on her slides, about Better Bus specifically, and of course, if there will be representatives from the county at a number of those transit center events, at which time we'd be happy to engage with you about the transit vision plan. Obviously, the county is a big place, so we can't always come to every single corner, but that is one of the reasons that we are having this event right now and why it will be posted to the TVP website. But yeah.
I also had one more question. I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
Will this presentation be, because I came in late, is this presentation, will that be able to be shared or viewed?
Exactly. Yep. We will post this presentation along with the recording of this meeting to the TVP website.
The TVP website, I like I said before, can you drop the link to that so I can
Absolutely.
set that up, look at that? Okay,
Of course. Yeah.
And then
Right.
just with the call out.
Hi, Ralph.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Do you belong to like a civic association or community group?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll put the email address.
But I
I
do work in
understand.
the school system, so I know a lot of the school system employees and also students rely on the buses to get either to like there's bus attendants that get up early in the morning for the buses, and same thing for cafeteria workers. There are a lot of people in our county school system, PG, that rely on the school on public transportation because they can't afford to buy a vehicle.
And that's a
So
good call out, Ralph. I just wanted to point out, Reem had mentioned a new connection with MNC EPC. That can you just kind of highlight that relationship again, Reem, for us?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. So the Parks and, oh my gosh, now I've forgotten what the
Basically,
acronym
Parks and
stands
Rec,
for.
Prince George's County.
Parks and Rec for Prince George's County has become a Better Bus partner, which means that basically they will be equipped with the resources that kind of physical resources like flyers and maps at all of their physical locations. So anywhere where they are, you'll be able to learn at least with physical materials and about the Better Bus network, at least the kind of Metro Bus materials.
Yeah, no, thanks for calling it out, Ralph. I think it's important to make sure the kids know what's going on, especially as they're going to and from their locations in school. So, like I said, it sounds like the park and recreation centers across the county may have additional information with Better Bus that we can help steer our community members to learn more.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ralph.
well, no problem. Thank you.
Any other questions as we wrap
I have a comment. So Ralph, I did put the email address in the chat box. If you just shoot me an email, I will make sure you get the TVP presentation along with information about the Better Bus network redesign in the county.
Thanks, Latoya. All right. I'm just trying to see any more any more questions in the chat that I missed. All right. Well, again, I just kind of wanted to reiterate, just thank you all. I know this isn't easy work. I know there are a lot of different moving pieces, a lot of different community partners. Definitely a lot of feedback that you all have had to take in different trade-offs and just things, just managing all the different pieces to get the network to where it needs to be at. And I know we at Rise are very appreciative and excited about this new evolution in our bus and how Prince Georgians are going to get around. And so I just have one final question for you all, and maybe the deputy director can start with this answer. Just if you could leave us with one message tonight, what would it be? Sorry to put you back on the spot.
This is totally on the spot. Oh my
Oh.
goodness. If I could leave you with one thought, it would be to continue. I know a lot of us are facing current realities, right? We heard from you loud and clear, even 2 years ago with the surveys, that there is a need to improve the reliability of the service and to do more. So if I were to leave you with one thought, it would be to really be inspired, right? Reimagine what is possible in Prince George's County. That is exactly what this plan does. That is exactly what our partners at WMATA are also trying to do, to be aspirational, to think about what can be. So be inspired and work along with us to get this done.
Thank you, Deputy Director.
Welcome.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Again, just on behalf of Raj Prince George's Coalition for Smarter Growth, DPWNT, WMATA, and just all the residents of Prince George's County, thank you all for your work. And we're excited to keep the conversation going and stay connected and get Prince George's moving. So this recording will be available on the respective websites. I think there are some emails in the chat. So just make sure you guys take a look at that as we close out. But again, just thank everybody for coming out on a Thursday evening. And I hope everybody enjoys their Memorial Day weekend. Take care.